Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company, a new show about the issues and institutions, the people and politics of New York City. We're starting off today with a discussion about politics, and in particular, those of the City Council, with Bill Perkins and David Yassky, members of the newly elected council. Bill Perkins is a returning member who represents the 9th District of Manhattan. The district includes Central Harlem, the Upper West Side, and Morningside Heights. David Yassky is a newly elected member of the council, and he represents the 33rd District in Brooklyn, which includes Greenpoint, Williamsburg, Brooklyn Heights, and Park Slope. Welcome to both of you, and thank you for being on our first program.
Thank you for having me.
David, what's it like being a member of the council? Does it live up to what you thought it was going to be, and how is it different?
Well,
if it is, I don't know.
It's been terrific. I think we're off to a really good start.
So it's not a chaotic mess?
Not at all a chaotic mess.
Good.
I mean, the council, as you know, is overwhelmingly new. 38 of the 51 members are brand new. We've got some experienced leadership,
right,
but a lot of folks, and not having worked together before, I wondered, whether the group would be able to kind of come together and function.
Yeah.
So far, it's done it very well. We've picked a speaker, and we did that unanimously. I was glad that we were able to come together.
I'd like to talk a little bit about that selection process in a little while, but not right now.
Yeah. And we've organized ourselves into committees and set an agenda, and I think we're ready to go.
Well, I'm very glad. I'm a critic of a lot of things, but I knew this council was going to be good and well organized. I thought it was really a ploy, all these cries of chaos and confusion on the part of members who really didn't like the term limits, right?
Well, I never thought it was going to be chaotic. I think that what has been happening up to now has proven that it's pretty well organized. But ultimately, the people don't care whether we're well organized or not. They care whether or not they get served.
Yeah.
And that's still to be determined. I mean, I'm optimistic that good work will happen. Good people are involved in some of the committees, but ultimately we really have to deliver. And the greatest challenge, obviously, is going to be this budget that we're facing and how we're going to close that, and who's going to be hurt and who's not going to be hurt.
Let's talk about the budget in a minute also, but Bill, you've come back now, 4 years later, and you've really come back. The experience has to be far different from what it was when you started. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I kind of miss the old timers, so to speak, people like yourself, people who've gone, because I kind of relied on them.
Well, now you're the old timer.
That's what I'm saying.
We do get older faster than we think we're going to.
So, in terms of how the institution works, in terms of getting some things done and running ideas by, so especially someone like yourself, I miss that. On the other hand, I do recognize that I have somewhat of a superior familiarity with some of these processes and with the whole environment. And I can feel that, and I can see that, and I am trying to sort of play a role in which I can be helpful with the newer members as far as what I think can be done or what they think can be done. So it's a good experience. I feel sort of like a senior statesman sometimes. I don't feel as if I can be as free in some ways as I was when you were younger, when I was a freshman. So
but you have more opportunity, I think, to have an impact on things, or do you?
I believe I do. I think that that to a large extent has to do with this process that we were going to talk about a little later in terms of the speakership. I think the results of that process has helped in terms of being able to have some influence over the other members as well as the leadership.
Before we do that, let's just talk.
I was going to say there are a couple of things. One is really how the speaker process came out, and Bill probably has a lot more insight into that than I do. But also another thing we've done right at the outset was to change some of the rules for the way the council works.
You did a lot of work on that preparation for the rules, right?
We did, and really building on the work that you had done when you first got to the council, and saying if the council were decentralized and more authority was given to the committees and to individual council members, you kind of free up the creative energies and the entrepreneurial talents of council members. And we were able to get past most of what I thought really was a terrific package.
Significant difference.
And I think that, and the returning members like Bill, not only do they have experience, but they also are, in my kind of short time of working with them, a remarkably talented group. So that we've, I think that changing the rules to give, make it not just the speaker making all the decisions, but have committee chairs have real influence. I think that will also,
Well, how will
we'll see
chairs,
folks like Bill start to really.
How will the committee chairs have more influence? I mean, you can select. You have more of a voice now in selecting your staff, the chief staff person for the committee. But how else do the rules ensure that you're going to have more input?
Well, that's one, and that's very important. I mean, I was a congressional staff person on a congressional committee, and if you work for the chairperson, that means that that chair really is able to set the agenda.
I remember that in the last council, some of the staff worked for the speaker against the chair.
And what happened was myself and a group of the newcomers set out to work on these rules change process. We talked to all the returning members and those who had served and were no longer in the body. And we heard time and time again, people who were committee chairs said, I was really unable to use my committee to get anything done because the staff didn't really work for me, and if my agenda was different from the speaker's, and not only if the speaker disagreed, but if this was not a priority item for the speaker. And look, a speaker's only going to have 3 or 4 things that are priorities. So if you're going to have an active body on healthcare and education and housing and waterfront development, then you need more than one person to be driving that.
But did you as
so here's, besides just the staff, now we've got it so that if a bill comes out of a committee, it's guaranteed to get a vote before the full council. Very important.
That is a very important thing.
It means that a committee chair knows that she can get to work on an issue, do all the necessary work to get something up and running, and not then have it cut off at the end stage by a speaker who says, well, I'm just not going to schedule it for a vote.
Sometimes it doesn't even get through the committee.
Let's see. But let's go to a very basic question. Did you, as a committee chair, have anything to do with the assignments to the committee?
You mean in the past or presently?
Now, I mean, when the committee.
No.
So that's the next rule you have to look at. Is somehow you have to be able to participate in the selection of the committee, because it seemed to me the speaker was always sure when I was in the council that he controlled at least a majority of that committee, and that was where the problem. One of the problems was.
Yeah, that's
so
helpful.
Keep that for next time.
I don't know how, in a way, in this case, how practical it could be.
I don't know how you do it.
We don't know each other.
Right. So after this, then maybe you will.
But some input is with the speaker may be helpful from that point.
All right,
so that it gives the chair some sort of empowerment in terms of the membership, and some sense that the members are not just loyal to the speaker.
Right. Well, I thought that, I'm looking forward to the substantive issues that come out of the council committees. I think that's very important. But then let's look at the political structure and how it got organized. I mean, certainly you didn't feel empowered as a newly elected council member that you had really anything to say about the election in this council, did you? And the appointment of the committee chairs or the majority leader and all of that?
Well, I thought I did. I mean, look, there's no question that it's a very political process, and it's not just the council members themselves, but there are other political actors that were involved. Unions, Democratic Party organizations, no question they involved themselves in the speaker selection process.
Landlords.
Absolutely. Vested interests of all sorts. Now, first of all, I'm somebody, government is not insulated, from the rest of the world. And interests are interests for a reason. They have a legitimate need to be represented. However, I still thought that at the end of the day, kind of all voices were able to be heard, including mine and the other voice of the other council members. So I didn't think it was.
Well, Bill, do you have a slightly different perspective? I thought that you were maybe going to be the speaker.
Yeah,
and I thought that the atmosphere and the year was the time for you to be the speaker. Yeah. You were a very good council member. You certainly learned quickly. You're mature. And as importantly, you're a person of color. And it seems to me that if we've learned one thing, that the city is changing, and the change should be reflected.
It sure should. But the political realities defy the atmosphere. The political realities are such that black power or minority empowerment is not the driving force very often within the city council per se. County politics dominates over those other types of politics. And I don't say that disparagingly, I'm saying that that's the reality. Folks line up, for the most part, with their county organization. To the extent that there was some independence, it was represented in Brooklyn with some that opposed the county candidate at the time. I think you were amongst them. Obviously, my candidacy was to a large extent premised on that. But the reality is that even those who defied the county in their race for city council wound up feeling compelled to nevertheless be with the county. And part of that, I think, also has to do with a few fears that people had around the corner, 2 years running for the election. Even as I may have run against the county, for instance, I'm not sure if I want to have a headache in two years from now. Well, so there's a lot of players involved in this. There are a lot of aspects of what happens that sort of defies the atmosphere in terms of any kind of empowerment movement per se, or even in terms of any kind of independence. Because the other side of this is that independence is not necessarily a value that is championed, that is valued.
A trait that's valued, I guess.
Well, let me also say, I mean, I came to realize, I'll be honest with you, I had hoped at the outset.
Well, you ran against an organization candidate.
I did.
And surprised everybody by winning. Well, not everybody, but I meant surprised the organization by winning. Right.
Well, I did. And I'd hoped in the speaker process that the council members, ourselves, would be able to show some more independence than it turns out we did. I'll tell you, though, I came to see that it was in part due to term limits, in that the membership is so new, and people really don't know each other enough to be able to know who they can kind of trust and rely on and work with, that people ended up looking, I think, to outside influences more than they will maybe in a couple of years from now.
And it's not only term limits, it's the year of the reapportionment due to the census, and I think that's very key. We haven't been hit with it yet. It's not directly, but you guys are going to be running in new districts. And who controls the reapportionment, obviously, are the political parties. I mean, I've just been amazed that the Republicans going to add state districts into the state legislature in order to save their people. So that's the most political process, I think, that we have. So the new members not only don't want to be opposed in the primary because they'll only have been incumbents for 2 years, but that they're also going to be in new districts, and they are worried about the lines that are going to be drawn. The speaker, this council is going to have the commission, isn't it, that draws the council lines?
Together with the mayor.
Together with the mayor. Who appoints the commission? Is it joint?
It'll be joint. We'll have some appointments, and the mayor will have some appointments.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm concerned about that. As the mayor presents his budget, which by all accounts is going to be a very difficult budget. He's scheduled to present his budget on Valentine's Day, February 14th, and the rumor is it's going to be Mayor Bloomberg's Valentine's Day massacre budget with cuts in every direction. And I myself am determined that the council be an independent voice and a check on the mayor, and say that some things, schools, cannot be cut. In fact, we've got to be adding money to the schools so we're competitive with other jurisdictions. And I'm concerned that with reapportionment hanging over people's heads and the mayor's influence on that, that'll be a struggle to achieve that kind of independence.
So you're going to have a lot of forces. I want to come back to discuss the power of the political parties and the unions, but we're going to take a break for a minute, and then we'll come back and go back to that and to the mayor and the budget. Let's go back to talking about the real politics, or the county organization politics. We come from Manhattan, and we were the early reform movement in the 50s, and I think other than for judges, we've rendered the county organization pretty powerless in this borough. But it's far different in other boroughs, and it's been an education, Bill.
It's a very important area to look at, because there's no question that the county organizations are alive and well, and that they are very influential in some ways as far as how members vote, and that was to some extent evident, in this last in this last race for Speaker. My great concern is their influence, their potential influence with regard to other matters beyond the Speaker, legislation, etc. I had an awful experience in my first term around the lead bill.
Oh, so did, yeah.
And I mean, it was a bill in which, especially those of us from the African American and Latino community, had a great interest in, and started out being opposed to. This was the local law 30, and had forums and tours as a way of building up some awareness and some momentum to oppose the bill. But it turned out that that didn't happen, and I believe that.
Well, let me just go back. It was even worse than that, because the original bill, which had been debated for years,
Local Law 205,
in Environmental Committee, that's not. It never became a local law. It was a bill that Stanley Michaels had crafted with all the advocates protecting people who were living in heavily leaded housing. Suddenly, and that had been debated, and NYPIRG and all the good government groups supported it, suddenly another bill, totally different, comes out of the Housing Committee, and that's the bill, the Speaker. So we're not, but in this case, we're not necessarily talking about the county organizations as much as the power of other lobbies, right? I mean, we have to equate it. It's not only...
See, sometimes
it shifts.
It's how they work. You know, the other lobbies work their way sometimes through the counties.
I see. I got it. Yeah.
You understand? And that's my great concern. My concern is that the dignity of the institution and of the membership is going to be undermined if the public continues to perceive us as being pawns of county leaders.
Absolutely.
And while we may not be pawns of county leaders, the perception is more important than the fact. And so the independence of the members is very important in order for us to bridge the credibility gap between ourselves and the constituents at large. And that's why it's a great concern of mine, and because we won't be able to be respected, and while we may have more power, ostensibly we will have less respect.
Right, and particularly with this mayor, who, whatever else the public thinks, they think he's independent. And I think we're going to have to show ourselves to be as independent. And there's another part of what you said I want to pick up on, which is you use the word suddenly for how the lead bill changed. And it's very important to me that decisions be made out in the open. I think the more openness, the more transparency you bring to this, the harder it is for the county organizations to work their influence.
But do you have a mechanism now that about the bills? Well, you do. You think you do with the chairs.
Well, we have some rules that will enable us to do that, but it's also a matter of culture. And I mean, things like the budget.
Right.
As you know, tradition City Council was for budget negotiations to be entirely behind closed doors, and then one vote at the end of the day.
And always just a little segment of the budget. I mean, we didn't, first of all, we never tied oversight hearings and the budget together. And the budget is really a year-long process. You and I have talked about that for a long time.
And I don't see why these important budgetary decisions can't be debated and voted on, up or down. If I think education, if a bunch of people on the council think that the schools need more money, then we should have a debate on that and vote on that question, and not have just one vote on the whole budget, take it or leave it, up or down.
Well, it's going to be important for the speaker. The state of the city addresses are extremely important. That will give you the clue, because that's the agenda for the year of the person giving the address. So the mayor's state of the city is tomorrow, is it?
Yes,
I think
he's going to do something tomorrow.
That's the preamble to the budget. So you'll get from there what's going to happen with the budget. The speaker's state of the city address now, has he met with people to discuss it? Because he is now establishing his agenda and his priorities. And when he gives that address, that's going to be what he's going to be looking for during the year. And that becomes, we found out later, Bill was the budget negotiator from Manhattan, we found out later that became the speaker's agenda, the whole council's agenda, because it was the speaker's agenda. I just want to say that I was really disappointed in the committee assignments. First of all, I thought you'd be speaker. Then I thought, well, and I think that you played a very fine game of politics. I really do. I mean, you had a caucus a group of supporters that you put together, and you saw that you weren't going to be the speaker, And what'd you do? You made a deal.
I made a speaker. If I can't be the speaker, then make the speaker.
Right. All right.
And so I tried to make a speaker because I would therefore have an opportunity to put on the table some of the concerns that were important, such as a commitment to the reforms that and that those reforms be voted on, and that commitment was brought to the table and was lived up to, and a commitment to providing leadership to the members of my coalition, and a commitment to access, to the speaker. And I think that those were reasons.
So are you going to add to your coalition as you go along?
It's a growing coalition, we hope, and I think it's a coalition that can be sort of a third force,
right?
In helping to make the council representative of the city, and I'm optimistic about it. I know that I'm learning more and more that there are many sharks in the sea that are nipping at this institution, trying to get their piece, and not necessarily with the best interests of the community or of the institution in mind. And I think that we can, to some extent, provide some kind of counterbalance to that. I'm hopeful in that regard.
I'm glad that we're talking about this because I think it's really important that people understand what the political forces, the under the top political forces, because I think that'll help make them vote and pay more attention to what goes on. I mean, it falls into the hands of the county organizations or the special lobbying interests that have a lot of money when we don't pay attention, right? I mean,
there's no question.
Run it.
And that's a message that's important for citizens to hear.
Yeah.
It's also a message important, I think, for the council members themselves and people in government to hear. The council has a lot of power if it chooses to exercise it. And I think that's going to be the question.
I'm delighted that you're in the council, but I think had they done that before, they wouldn't have had term limits because people would have had respect for the body.
Absolutely.
But everybody thinks, what is it? It's nothing. And you name it.
And I think sometimes when I'm feeling a little cynical, I think there's an agenda to keep the council as a second-class type of institution, because then you can do more.
Absolutely, you do more business and you take care of your special interests.
And if the people don't care about it, then that's great. So that way we can do what we have to do. Once it is elevated to a first-class type of operation, a first-class institution with first-class members, then people pay attention, and you can't quite dabble and take care of the business that you've been taking care of.
I was amazed. As you said, I and a few other folks started out with these reforms, the rules reforms, very early on, and I thought they were a good idea, but I knew they were a good idea when folks in the kind of permanent government that make a living off the council and off the government started coming to me saying, this is terrible. They would say, you have one person you can call and deal with. And I said, well, that's what you need if you've got an interest that you're looking to serve. But the people need debate and need a functioning legislature. And there's no question, there are a lot of people that want the council to be inactive so that when there's a deal that they need to make, they can call the speaker and make the deal.
I know when I was campaigning, there were 3 or 4 issues that some folks wanted me to address. One was these rules, which they didn't want. And these are very influential people. I'm not going to mention any names, but they control a lot of votes. And rules, campaign finance. Right. They were opposed to campaign finance at 4-1. They wanted it to be at 2-1. And they were concerned about, who did you have in mind for different positions, staff-wise, as well as finally term limits. Yeah. And
they want you to do away with term.
They want that, so they, you have to respect the fact that they have an agenda.
Yeah, right. But you got to be even. Right? You got to have the power.
You have to have a counter agenda. And if you don't have an agenda, if you don't have a vision.
Well, I think that was a little bit distressing, and that aside from your group and people who supported the candidacy of the speaker, the county organizations did very well. They chair the 2. First of all, they have the majority leader. How old is our? I mean, I love
23?
Young people, but
no. Joel?
Yeah, Joel is 23 years old. He's been in the council less than a year, succeeded his father, and he's the majority leader, and it means he's going to chair these council meetings when the public advocate isn't there. So it's fine, but it certainly was an open message that the Bronx did very well, plus the Housing Committee. And then Queens has land use and finance. And well, I can't do this. I just had a personal thing. I saw the new chair of the Finance Committee, I think on his first appearance on television on another channel. And there were 4 members of the council, and he was there in a tuxedo, and they asked him if this is his outfit that he usually wears. He says, "Oh, no, tonight is the real estate board meeting." Dinner, the real estate board dinner. I thought, well, that's a little inexperience and a lack of polish. This has been such a great discussion that I hope you guys will come back again and we will further along, because I'd like you now to look not only at the rules, but at ethics. I think that is the third part of campaign finance, the rules and its ethics of the contributions that come in, the tickets that get bought. I mean, our past speaker had a cocktail party, and I think he charged, is it possibly charged $5,000 a ticket? So I think we need to talk about that. The time has gone by so quickly, as did your 4 years. And I thank you very much, David Yassky, and I look forward to hearing much about you, and I'm sure we will. And to Bill Perkins and your leadership, thank you very much, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Yeah.